And as you recall, I like to set it off with a little bit of music when I do these chapters and themes of the time. Yeah, so check it. Hey, special thank you, Reka, for responding to me. Thank you, Reka, for responding to me. That was very special to me that you caught that. And just to let everybody know, the hashtags to follow my story, it's I mistyped it when I sent it to her too because it's the second time I've done this. It's RL Cartel, CARTEL, Burnt Crosses, Tales from the South Side, my documentary I'm working on. I have a filmmaker back in Iowa, Troy Brooks. We already got a trailer in the can. It's called Fields of Green. It's a documentary about medical marijuana patients in Iowa, our struggle, our plights, and it's about reform and changing the laws for adults in Iowa and reducing the penalties and getting people out of fucking prison. But I'm also I want to give special mention, rest in peace to Rob. I want to say I was his biggest fan in Des Moines until he passed away from ALS back in 2006. Uh, and, these are a couple of my special VCR tapes that I have. Talking Heads, True Stories, and Rodney Dangerfield's Back to School. But since the book Burnt Crosses, it only goes, it goes up until my story carries on until 1989, just about the time before I met my ex-wife Paula, and a lot of talk about me doing this and don't be writing no stories about me and this and that. I said, hey, I'm not sure what story Reka wants me to tell for the storytellers, but one of the stories I like to tell is I'm known for making famous people laugh. And this is a story that I'll tell Paula won't give a shit about. It was in '91, and the year after our son was born. And me and Paula, I needed to get out of Tucson. There was some weird shit going on back in Des Moines, and we just done a delivery back there, and everything was going okay. And now the money was back, and I had like we were pretty stacked. And so we had her mom uh, watch our son for the weekend. We went to California because I'd never been to Universal City and this and that. So the long and short of it, we stayed at the Universal Hilton and go to get in the elevator. And we were on the 17th floor, and the elevator door opens, and there's one dude standing there, and two other like college type dudes, frat boys or whatnot, and their deck shoes or whatever. Anyways, so of course I know that's James Brown. He's got this pimp ass blue tracksuit on and stuff, and he's got all the bling and everything, and that rhymed. And I'm not saying nothing, and I'm just like in awe. And Paula's kind of like, you know, she knows what's up too. She knew who was there, and dudes go, yeah, this is pretty. They were like, I was like, yeah, it's pretty. They were like, this is pretty awesome, or I think I said, or something. And they go, yeah, the last time we stayed here, we were eating lunch, and the table from the guiding light was there. And I was like, man, I dropped it there. I was like, the guiding light. I was like, you're standing next to the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. The guiding light ain't shit. And then fucking James Brown held out his hand, shook my hand, and we didn't have the wherewithal. We had a camera with us, and we had a pen and everything, but we were just so awestruck and everything like that. Uh, we just followed him all the way out to his limo and everything like that. And that's my first brush with greatness, real greatness, was meeting James Brown in person in California. It was a couple weeks after he got out of prison, back in '91. You can check the date. All right, let's get down to it. If you know what I mean. In the fall, of '85, I was getting closer to realizing my dreams. I was sharing a house with a friend of my brother's, a guy named John Wicker, later known as Johnny Lobster. I had some steady connections by now and was turning a lot of bags to my coworkers at Safeway. The Lobster was getting some blow floated to him to sell. Well, we were doing a lot ourselves. I was now making $8.50 an hour in the produce department. Helped boost the upfront money to invest in weed. I actually got laid a couple of times during this period of my life. At 19, I was ready to take on the world. Snorting coke didn't seem to be enough, so wouldn't you know, freebasing was next. One of my first acquaintances was a guy from Chicago named Tim McNamara. He was 25 and had done a stretch a few years ago and was now smuggling grass back to Chicago via commercial airliner. Gave Tim a ride one night. Yes, by now I had a car to pick up 10 pounds for him to take to Chicago. I waited outside some shop while Tim went in and got a box. Gave me a couple ounces for the ride. I really felt important that night. Mr. Tim, as the Mexicans called him, was the one person I can say that really showed me the ropes of smuggling. In order to be good at it and not get caught, one had to be able to play the part. Be clean shaven, never do anything to draw attention to yourself. Always have your plane ticket in hand along with the newspaper. Fly under an alias. Back then, you didn't have to show an ID. There was no TSA back in the '80s. Never show up stoned at the counter when checking in, and never let anybody know your business. Have a good story to tell and look like a college student. If one were to show up with long hair and red eyes, shaking like a mother, you would be profiled by the airline people who would then notify the airport police. It was no cakewalk putting 20 pounds of weed into a suitcase, check in, and hope it comes out on the other end. But if you were good, chances are you wouldn't be caught. Tim was good at playing the part. I listened many a night, smoking coke with Mr. Tim. I knew one day this is what I would do. Making $2,500 off a 3-hour trip would be easy. Then again, it would be some time until I learned how hard it really was. As my access to larger quantities of weed increased, so did my contact with those left in Des Moines. In the year next, I had been in the time I had been in Tucson, the price in Des Moines had risen to 900 a pound. More people were dealing and selling coke, but the demand for weed was still large. Bags in Iowa now are going for $30 a quarter ounce, not $12.50. In Tucson, some 40 miles north of Sonora, you could get a pound for $400. The dollar side started clicking in my eyes. I flew back to Iowa for a visit at Christmas time. My intention was to find out who could take some pounds off my hand. I brought a QP. I brought a QP that I bought and paid for in full, and a couple ounces of skunk along for my friends to see. Airfare was cheap. Then it was $180 for a round trip ticket. After getting $100 an ounce for my QP and $100 for the other ounces of skunk, my take after the plane ticket was a cool $370. Pretty easy, I thought, for making $300 a week working 40 hours. Problem is, when one has too much time on one's hand, one never has enough money. I didn't get it back then. I do now. When you're 20, there's no tomorrow. Everything had cooled off from the summer of '85. Sean and the rest of the gang was ready for me to produce the numbers I projected. If I had 10 pounds, 5 would be sold cash the day I got off the plane. It would be no problem. The other 5, some people would be ready in a week. Greed was never a thing to me. All I wanted to do was bridge the gap between Iowa and Arizona. If I had money, I wanted my friends to have money. I wanted them to hang out in Arizona by the pool in February like I did. I hated the fucking snow. I lived to party, and people know that, let's just say, really, is no easy way out. But there is, if you can hold it together long enough. Alright, there's chapter 7. So, hope you enjoyed that little story about James Brown, the Godfather's Soul. And looks like I got a chance to be on Storytellers in October back in Des Moines. We'll see how it goes. See you on chapter 8.